Hey everybody, going live here on Instagram with the amazing Betty Esperanza from beautiful Montreal, Canada. Going to have a conversation about skateboard for help, or skateboards for hope. An amazing organization that is helping people around the world. And is she on as of yet? Yes, she is. She's there. Hello, Betty. Betty, are you there?
I'm here. I'm holding my phone because I wasn't sure what to do with it.
Yeah. I progressed into the modern era and got a phone holder about 2 weeks ago. So it only took me a decade to actually finally buy in. Okay, let's get something that can hold this and keep it in the same spot.
I know. I'm trying to figure out what I should do with the phone, but I thought I was going to go horizontal, but I guess I'm vertical.
You are vertical and it looking spectacular, I gotta say.
Yeah, because if I do it like this, it doesn't work. Oh,
Yeah,
I can do it. Here, can you see me?
And it's unfortunate you can't use it on your computer, so
yeah.
You know, it's got to be on the phone or on an iPad, which is
fine.
Which is the challenge.
But we'll do fine.
I know you'll do fine.
Yeah.
It's absolutely great to have you here, Betty. Really looking forward to our conversation today because you know, you've been inspiring me for a long time with all the work that you've been doing with Skateboards for Hope, and also just the endless effort and empathy for other people and helping others. And I know we'll get a chance to have a chat about all the things that you've been doing, and maybe even some of the challenges that the city of Montreal is facing right now, and helping other people. So what we do normally to kick off our conversations, Betty, if you haven't had a chance to see the whole thing before, we do an introduction of the GenWell Project, a little top line about why we're having these conversations. And then I'll come back to you and read your introduction so that everybody knows who you are and why you are here.
Perfect.
Because you deserve it for all that you've done. So, okay, so for those who haven't joined us before, this is the GenWell Project, the Human Connection Movement, whose mission is to make the world a happier and healthier place by reminding people about the importance of face-to-face social connection in their lives, and more importantly, inspiring them to take action. When we launched our movement in 2016, our hope was to be a catalyst that got people to, you know, hear our message and take action. We now wake up in a world of a pandemic where we're all becoming much greater aware of the importance of human connection in our lives and realizing how much we miss it when it's not there. As a result of the pandemic, we launched Connected Conversations. And Connected Conversations is a series of conversations that we launched in order to keep people connected to ideas, other people, and tools that could help them as they work their way through this challenging time and came out the other side as happy and healthy as possible, but knowing that we're all going to go through ups and downs over this period of time. Our goal here is to help people get through these times in the happiest and healthiest way they possibly can. A huge shout out and thank you to our volunteers who helped us, who help us every day, whether it's on social media, whether it's our PR, whether it's messaging to different groups and mayors across the country. Without volunteers, and frankly, every person who's ever shared a post or watched a video and had a conversation about the importance of human connection, everybody is part of this movement, and together we can make the world a happier and healthier place. Also, a final shout out to our good friends at JP Weisers and Molson Coors for their support of the human connection movement, because without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing. And hopefully we'll find new partners as we move forward and this issue becomes even more relevant in these challenging times, that people want to step up, organizations want to step up and see how they can be a part of finding a solution and being a catalyst for their community to reach out and get connected face to face. So today we have Betty Esperanza, a friend of mine for now, I think nearly a decade. We've known each other.
Oh, yeah.
and goes back to when I was overseeing the Movember Canada campaign here in Canada, and you were a passionate Mo Sista
Yes.
in beautiful Montreal, Canada. And we've managed to stay in touch over that time. Funny enough, before virtual was cool.
Yeah.
And here we are again. So let me introduce you. Betty Esperanza is an artist, a humanitarian, founder of Skateboards for Hope, a not-for-profit to foster leadership for children living in poverty in Canada and worldwide, using skateboards as her tool. Her passions are focused on arts and culture, photography, films, entrepreneurial projects, and creation and development of sustainable communities. She is now part of the TED Talks brand after her stellar conference at TEDx Youth Montreal, where she shared her Skateboards for Hope story on stage among speakers as Dub FX, international slammer, singer, Chris C., poet, journalist from Me to We, and a list of exceptional speakers, local and international. Betty Esperanza received a distinguished honor to meet Oprah in April 2013 due to her commendable community work. She was also awarded a recommendation by Honorable Marc Garneau, Deputy Minister of Westmount Ville-Marie, and recently received the Maria Brown Humanitarian Award for her work in the community. Betty, it is a pleasure to have you here. And oh my gosh, I had no idea about all those amazing accolades you'd received.
Well, I don't really advertise them. I post about it once it happened, and then I kind of like put it on the shelf and I go trudging away, you know, doing the good work, you know?
Yeah, isn't that an amazing thing? You know, I think this is a challenge for all of us, and it happens in so many parts of our lives. You know, we do good, but we, you know, never seem to be done, and we kind of forget those. And I think in challenging times like this, you know, when our day-to-day norms have been interrupted, it's important for us to be able to reflect on all the things that we've done, you know, most importantly to help others, but certainly, you know, whether it's memories that we've created with our family and friends, whether it's travels that we've had, you know, we've all lived in the greatest growth era in the history of the world. And most of us have had the opportunity to do something that we can reflect back on and feel proud of. And therefore, you know, what a great opportunity to look back at all those things. I see a lot of people sharing pictures right now. And I think that's part of that, which is, hey, we're on pause, but hey, we've been having a great journey and we will hopefully get back to it soon enough.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I've been talking with my community here in Canada, as well as in Uganda and Cuba and other countries, in Spain and UK, wherever the kids are FaceTiming me, or mostly they're doing Instagram. So that's where it's happening, just like we are now. And depending on the level of poverty that they are living in, they are living pretty much the same thing. I mean, just think about it. Every single kid in this world is living the exact same thing everywhere. So it's not like nobody doesn't understand. Everybody is having the same struggle, and maybe going through the ups and downs of, you know, of their future, and not understanding exactly what's going to be happening next. But the solace that I have is that kids are actually talking about it. Maybe some parents don't feel comfortable, are also struggling, you know, with it. It's very, very daunting to tell your child that, you know, dad and mom lost their jobs and we can't afford our car anymore and it's going to be repossessed, or maybe there's not enough you know, food, you know, it's not 3 meals a day, it's only going to be 1 meal a day. And these are real things happening to my kids, my skateboarders out in the world. And I'm sitting on the other end trying to find solutions for them and keeping them, I wouldn't say positive. I think we have to be realistic. So I just want to be there to listen. And I think that's the key, to get them to talk about it, and also to have a little bit of fun. So I just get them back on their skateboards. And I encourage parents who don't, you know, who thought maybe skateboarding wasn't a great tool or a great way to exercise. It's fantastic because it's actually an individual sport, and it's really an antidepressant. Any skateboarder you will ask, if they had a bad day, they take their skateboard and they go and have some fun. They try to do their tricks or just roll or whatever level they're at. And they forget what's going on because they have to focus on staying on the board. So, you know, I understand what's going on there today, and I'm living it with the kids. And I myself am isolated because I'm at risk. So I know that my work is not done. And it's an opportunity for me to actually empower more children. And I can't wait to see what ideas and creativity they're going to come up with, because there's a lot of kids out there thinking about the future, and they might actually hold the answer to how to adapt to this new world.
Wow. Truly so much in what you just said there, Betty. You know, you talked about the challenges and that we're all going through this together, which I think is what makes this crisis so unique, that we are all going through it together. And so nobody is exempt from feeling maybe a little anxious, maybe a little concerned, maybe, you know, whether it's because you're worried about your next meal, maybe it's because you're worried about the closing of your business or the loss of your job. You know, we're all in this together. And really the message from the GenWell Project is always about we are stronger together. Yeah. And whether your community is the physical community you live in, or maybe it's your family and friends, or maybe it's your colleagues, we all have a broad community. And right now, because we're all going through this, and because we can all feel empathy for other people, because it's like, I'm not feeling so great either at times. So, you know, hey, you're probably not feeling better. And I'm going to ask you a question before we keep moving. But I do want to say, you know, I think you just brought up a really important message as well about skateboarding as an individual sport. And I think this may also be a challenge that some young people might be facing today is, you know, everything that most parents do, I shouldn't say that, I don't want to generalize on these things, but you know, you see a lot of team sports, you know, get kids into teams so that they can find their friends. Because I know on my street, all the kids go to different schools, private schools, Catholic schools, Jewish schools, you know. So the reality is nobody knows each other from school, which is much different than the world that I grew up in. You know, when I went to school, everybody went to the local school. That was just the way it was. And so I think your comment about individual sports is a really powerful one, is because I think a lot of times we use team sports as a way for people to meet friends in the world we live in today. And we may not recognize, although we're probably recognizing it now, the importance of individual sports, you know, as an opportunity for a kid to kill an hour, or right now to kill 4 hours of their time by heading up to the schoolyard and playing around, or the park or whatever. Although I know those are off limits, I think still.
Well, it depends where you're living, because in Quebec, they let their skate parks are open now, but with physical distancing, hand washing, of course, like they're asking them to wear masks. Only you don't wear a mask when you're doing the sport. You wear the mask when you're congregating, like even if you're 2 meters away. It'll take some time to get into that habit and routine. I mean, I go out with a mask because I'm immunosuppressed, so I'm at risk. And so what happens is I go out because I need to protect myself from people not wearing masks. But I've seen kids skateboarding with masks where they take off the mask, which is not always very hygienic, but they're smart. They're in the park. I've taken pictures of them. I've given them stickers, and they're respecting the physical distancing. I'm so proud of these skateboarders who are only 8, 9, 10, maybe till 12 years old, already minding their business, you know, whatever their parents are telling them, and respecting it. And I've talked to them. I've talked to a whole bunch near my house, and they're like, no, we understand. Like it's like we might not have the symptoms, and we might be able to give it to someone. So we're gonna do what my parents told me to do. I met one kid said, my mother told me and explained it to me, and I get it. And I don't want even my friends to get sick. I just thought that was amazing. Great thing about skateboarding is, even when you were on a ramp, if you find a ramp, or you were doing flatline skate tricks and playing this game of skate, you do it one at a time. You're not doing it necessarily together. So it's each one takes a turn. There's a common courtesy that's built up in skateboarding and sharing the sport as you are performing individually. And when you screw up your trick, it's the next person's turn. Nobody has to talk or say it's your turn. Everybody knows the rules. Agree to do 3-4 tricks, and then they screw up. Oh, next one, it's their next turn. So this individual sport is still social and instilling values of courtesy and respect towards each other. It's amazing. And anyone who's never seen skateboarders congregate and do and play together in a sense and watch them, they should watch them, because there's a silent way of getting along together without having to explain it. And that's what's so magical about the skateboard community.
Yeah, I think it's really, you know, again, there's so much in what you said there. You know, in the earlier you talked about what I would call resilience and how young people are so resilient. And it's, you know, it's the adults that are probably facing the bigger challenges, you know,
emotionally,
emotionally, but also, you know, job loss, financial pressure, things like that. But kids can still feel that pressure. And I think getting out and playing and being part of their community, respecting the physical distancing, can be a really powerful opportunity for them. And they probably respect that because they realize how quickly this can all be taken away again. Hopefully not, if we don't physical distance and all of a sudden we see some hot spots breaking out here, there, and everywhere. So before we go on, what I want to do, we always start out our conversations by checking in with the people that we talk to, because right now our message is, hey, just one more. And if all of us can reach out to just one more and check in, we can make a difference in the world. So before we get into any more about Skateboards for Hope and all the amazing work that you're doing, what I'd love to do is check in with you and say, hey, Betty, how are you holding up through COVID-19 as we entered 9 weeks, I think, this week?
Yeah, there are times that I sit, because I'm alone in my home, and one of my sons lives in Toronto. He's closer to you than he is in me, with his girlfriend. And my other one is actually one of the frontliners working at a hospital. And it's very hard as a mother and as an individual to realize that I cannot see my children physically. They're really physically away from me. And my youngest son just announced, like, when he took on the job, he said, I will not be able to come see you, because I will be in the heart of the action, unfortunately, battling COVID with the patient. So I said to him, I get it. So we can FaceTime, we can talk. But it's really difficult as a human being not to be able to hug your children. We used to have brunch together. You know, I run errands for me, and now he can't. So that part is where I sit back and I'm like, I'm fortunate because I'm healthy now. I have tools that I can use to keep healthy. I'm going to wear my mask. I'm going to wash my hands. And I also, I have a vocation. I have a passion. I help other children thrive in whatever projects they want to do. I can still collect skateboards, which someone's dropping me 20 of them today, you know, and I'm going to put on gloves. I'm going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to do all that. So I'm still able to do what I love, but in a new way. But yes, it's true that I'm not going to say that it's easy. I'm going to tell you that my biggest fear is catching the disease and how to avoid it. So I'm just learning, like a lot of people, how to be more mindful about, you know, bacteria, you know, so, and viral disease. So, which I never really thought about, to be honest with you, before, because I took it for granted. And now I'm learning that I'm part of the solution as well. So I'm wearing my mask. I'm telling people you have to stay over there. I have 2 friends who do visit and drop off stuff for me. And we have our, you know, our spritzer with alcohol. We laugh because it's kind of ironic. It's like, what are we doing? We're spraying bags, you know, but that's what we have to do in order to stay healthy. And it's okay, I guess, because I'm going to be doing this for a long time. I'm much more resilient than I thought I was, to be honest with you. I actually like my time by myself. So I've found that I'm starting to learn things. And, you know, I'm also engaging actually more, to be honest with you. I'm less busy than when I was working in an office. I'm remotely trying to connect with people, and it's much more pleasant, and we're having more meaningful conversations, which I think is better, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the powerful things of what you said in that is the point of helping other people and staying busy by doing good. And the research is very clear that when you help other people, it makes you feel better as well.
Yes.
And I think for anybody who's watching this now, or who watches the recording of it in future, I think right now in the midst of a pandemic, or frankly in the midst of any challenging time in our lives, it's at times difficult to turn our attention away from ourselves and to others, but it's probably one of the greatest things that we can all do. And certainly I know the feeling from having, worked at Movember, from, leading GenWell, your work with Skateboard for Hope. Those who've been in the giving space for some time know how great it is to help other people and to feel good every day when you put your head on the pillow, knowing that you've made a difference in the lives of other people. So I think what you're doing is awesome. I'm happy to hear that you enjoy the quiet time as well, because that's not always the case for everyone.
I agree. It's funny because I've been trying to find like, I would say, messages and to create messages, positive messages for the kids, and give them tools. And one of the things is that, like, a lot of parents that I know were telling me, like, they're going crazy and bonkers because the kids are home. Although in Quebec now, they can go back to school outside of Montreal. And so I was like thinking to myself, well, if you were homeschooled, maybe we should, like what did parents do when they homeschooled their children? And we should look into that more. So I reached out to an association, a local one here in Montreal, to get some ideas, because there are parents, and I tell the parents, like, you should join an association and find out, like, how you can help your child calm down, be less stressed. And one of the major things they told me was, children absolutely feel better when there's a structure. Breakfast, you wake up at the same time, you have breakfast at the same time, you have maybe your 1 hour of reading is at the same time. It's not going to be like with the same teacher intense atmosphere in a classroom like it was before. So like they said, have the supper at the same time, bath time at the same time, and sleeping at the same time. In between all that, that's when you can get creative with your child, get to learn about your child. One of the things that I did when my sons were young was, because I lived up north and it was, everything was far away. It would take you 20 minutes to get somewhere. I lived in the woods. So, I couldn't walk down the street and then see people. I had to organize all the time. One of the things I did with my children was I really brought them outside to discover nature. And so for those living, near a park, near trees, near the waterway, whatever, like the beach, those are times where you could talk about science. Even if you have to learn it yourself, you've got Google on your iPhone, people. There's no excuse that you can't plagiarize whatever's written there to teach your children if they're asking you questions or you want to incite something in them or motivate them. The other great thing is, if you're living in an urban setting, you could talk about urban planning and maybe discovering, like, why are certain buildings built a certain way, and why, like, there's so many different subjects that we could talk about with our children, not just the traditional math, reading, arithmetic. I think we should talk about cooking and health and nutrition and exercise and mental meditation and yoga and sports, and how to maybe do time management, like things that are not taught, that we have to learn, on our own when we become an adult. We can do all that. So and it doesn't have to be so strict that it has to be every day at this hour. There's no flexibility. So I'm encouraging parents to have a structure so that children understand, especially younger age, that this is the time to eat lunch, and this is the time to have quiet time, and this is the time to go crazy and skateboard, play, kick a ball, run around. By the way, I was thinking about this. I was like, I'm going to find a garden hose with, you remember the sprinklers when we were young, those sprinklers that would go back and forth? I did not have a pool. I had those sprinklers for entertainment. And I had this amazing memory of us taking plastic and using, you know, getting it all wet and sliding down. Like, there was no hill. We just did it. And I was thinking, I was like, that's what I'm going to encourage my kids to do and the parents to do is when it gets hot, oh, we can't go to the pool because of physical distancing. No, well, maybe let's find a place where we can, you know, get some water hose or something like that. I mean, for those that can do it, and apparently, I don't know if it's happening in Toronto or somewhere else, but in Quebec, you're allowed to cluster now with 2-3 families or the maximum of 3 families, maximum 10 people, physical distancing. Well, there's certain things that you can do, you know, outside, barbecue, maybe kick a soccer ball and make sure you don't pick it up with your hands. And if you pick it up with your hands, use a sanitizer. Like there's small little things that you can do that can be fun. And it doesn't take that much, you know, you don't need a lot of money for it either.
Love it. I think those are lots of great suggestions. And even to your early point about structure and keeping people on kids on a routine, we had Susan Chamberlain on from the George Hull Center a week ago Friday. And those are all the same types of pieces of insight that they were sharing as well as experts in the field. So I think you're spot on. But let's talk about why we're here today. And it's really about the work you do with Skateboards for Hope, a great charity that you've been running for a while now. But why don't you give us a little bit of the background on Skateboards for Hope? How long has it been around? Yeah. What's your purpose? And then, you know, why you started Skateboards for Hope?
So about 15 years ago, actually in 2005, I went on a family trip with my children to Cuba, and I've been going there 2-3 times a year. I took out the skateboard. My sons were running around chasing salamanders with Cuban children. You were there for a couple of months. So, you know, we sort of like integrated, and we rented a home in Buena Vista, which is about 20 minutes from central Havana, where it's very touristic. We were outside in the poorest area. And we were literally living like Cubans, except we were fortunate because we could afford way more. But we had activities with the kids, and we decided to live this you know, the summer and do that. So what happened was, I got bored. The kids were out. I decided to take the skateboard and just discover, like a couple blocks later, you know, the neighborhood, potholes everywhere. It was horrendous for skateboarding. But I saw a bunch of kids. They were playing baseball, and I started interacting with them. And I said, "Do you want me to teach you how to skateboard?" And one of the boys was so good at it. Like, he went on the board, and he was like, he was born to be on it. In hindsight, unfortunately, what I didn't know was he was a surfer. Of course he could get on a skateboard. He understood his body. He was only like 9. And I gave him the skateboard, and I promised him I would bring back skateboards for his friends. And that's how I had no intention of having a foundation, no intention of doing this. All I wanted to do was share my joy, and also the fact that I could buy a skateboard somewhere else. Because I promised him the 15 skateboards, oh my God, I thought I was going to become a liar, you know, because I got back to Montreal and I had no clue how I was going to do it. And then I started to ask around, and I got the skateboarding community just gave me stuff, and they gave me more than I needed. I brought back the skateboards, and I ended up keeping it up, you know, and all of a sudden I became the recycler of skateboards. So people would say, well, where can I drop it off? Well, yeah, I'll pick it up. We'll meet at the Metro. And, you know, in the end, I've given over 5,000 skateboards. If you think about it, you know, an average skateboard costs $200. That's a lot of money. And what's it called? A used skateboard has a value of about $125, you know? But when I was missing stuff, I would just take money out of my pocket. Then I was like, what am I doing? You know, I was being philanthropic. And then I decided, okay, this is getting bigger. And because I was shipping them to Cuba, Uganda, Philippines, Israel, like all over the world, to kids living in poverty. I realized I could do this even if I was working full time. I just had a passion to help kids. And of course, Instagram, Facebook, you know, those are the two tools, to be honest with you, that are now being used to reach out to all these kids. And WhatsApp for the kids outside in the Middle East and in Africa, they use WhatsApp. It's much easier for them. So I'm in communication with all these kids, and they write, I need a skateboard, or I'm missing a truck, or I don't ask. I just get it done. We find a way to get it there. We ship it. We have somebody travel down to the destination. And, you know, it got bigger than me. So what can I say? I mean, like, I'm going to keep doing it. But in the end, what am I doing? I'm empowering children and youth to think a little bit outside of themselves. That they're receiving a skateboard, but just like our boys in Cuba, who are now self-sufficient, sustainable. In Uganda, my ambassador, Magada, he is now has his own business. I mean, you know, because we give micro grants for education. So we've like expanded, and we're just giving opportunities to these children and the youth, especially boys, between ages of 13 and 25, who have absolutely nobody to help them. And we encourage girls to skateboard. We encourage, you know, equal, gender equal rights and all that. But mostly we are like, we've become the biggest recycler of skateboards. And I think we have to get more skateboards into the hands of kids who have no access. And I think building those communities is important.
Yeah, I think it's incredible to think that you've helped 5,000 underprivileged youth get a skateboard in a different country around the world, and actually help them take up something which, as we're recognizing right now, the opportunity to be out, as you described skateboarding earlier, if you go to a skate park, it's not just the physical activity of being on a skateboard. It's the social inclusion of being equal to the other people who are there. You may not be able to do the same amount of tricks, but you're able to get on that skateboard, go down a hill, and be part of a community, which is what we all are recognizing as we've been isolated for 9 weeks, is we're missing our community wherever that community is, whether it's at work, whether it's at a sport, whether it's at a book club, a wine club, whatever it is that you love to do. I think we're all recognizing how important that is. And as a young person, I think that time with other people, we know actually, you know, from the folks at Big Brothers Big Sisters, Leanne Nicole told us about some research, and we're going to get her back on to one of these connected conversations about the fact that social conversation, social human connection actually helps with brain development for young kids. So critical, but yet again, most of us are not conscious of just how important this is. So honestly, Betty, I'm overwhelmed by the fact that you've put 5,000 skateboards into the hands of young people around the world. You must feel really proud about that.
I am, and it's funny to say, because when we had calculated over the years how many recycled skateboards I gave out, I realized, first of all, I have to do a shout out to most of them. 90% came from Montrealers, and if you can think that I've saved them from these skateboards from going to landfill, they have saved that, and they understand that eco-friendly part about it. You know what I mean? Like, we have to recycle. Also, a lot of people ask, why a used skateboard? Why can't you get a new one? Well, first of all, I'm not here to take away profit from hardworking skate shops and skate wholesalers. It's not soccer. It's not a little ball. It costs a lot of money to put in. There's a lot of materials. It's a big industry, but it's you know, it is expensive. And so I want to encourage our local shops to take the used stuff and give it to me, so I could give it to the kids who can't afford. They will not be going into his store to buy a skateboard. These are kids who have absolutely no access. There's no way. They're living under the poverty line. And also because we're shipping them to countries where there's no skateboarding at all. There's not even some of them don't have roads. I'm not taking it away. So, you know, there's a big, the skateboarding community all over the world, whether it's one of our biggest suppliers is Land Yachts Longboards. They donated 200 brand new skateboards and longboards to us, which is mind-boggling. If you calculate they're $200-300 each, that's like a lot of money. And then we have like smaller shops like Roll and Board Shop that gave us like, you know, 70 brand new decks. Like they're $100 if you go buy them in the store, but it's never enough. Why? Because there's thousands of kids that are waiting for a skateboard. Because I'll give you an example. Magada, when he got a skateboard, the skateboard is worth the same amount as a lot of land, like a 45 an acre of land. So it's impossible. He's never going to buy a skateboard in his life. But you give them a skateboard, they really take it seriously. They use it as transportation as well. And, you know, it's used, but it's great for beginners. They're not all, obviously in countries and in places where they've never seen a skateboard, there's no skate shops, there's no access. They're all beginners. So these used skateboards are perfect for them. And also, they're given a second life, just like we're giving a chance to these kids. And this is why I'm doing it.
I think that's amazing, Betty. And I think, you know, the way you've connected the dots between, you know, used skateboards and being of real value to people who probably haven't played, you know, haven't skateboarded before, as beginners, you know, getting any skateboard is a great starting point. Yeah. And having places, whether it's roads or a park or a parking lot, you know, there's always some place that we can all go and actually try a few tricks and get started on the skateboard. So tell me, that is incredible stuff. And I see all the benefits that you're talking about. And I think most importantly, I think we're raising people's consciousness, even in this conversation, of all those dots that you've connected for them to say, look, you're going to throw it in the, you know, the trash. That's going to go into landfill. We have people around the world, kids around the world who will benefit, who will become healthier and happier because of it. So that's amazing that we're getting a chance to share this this conversation. But tell me, you know, how do you think COVID-19, well, I guess, how do you think COVID-19 is affecting those kids? And then how do you think, how is it affecting the work you do?
So right now, transportation is at a standstill because we use airlines. And, you know, shout out to Air Canada and Air Transat, who have been my partners for the last couple of years, because they would give us excess baggage and for humanitarian reasons. They actually acknowledged that what I was doing was for humanitarian reasons, because we're providing a tool for health for children, also to keep them away from, like, I'll give you an example. In Gulu, unfortunately, they have access to opium. There's not much to do down there. And while there's we have 150 kids coming out to skateboard twice a week. Shout out to Odeki Collins, who's been doing a phenomenal job as an ambassador. Right now, they're on lockdown, but he gets to use a skateboard for transportation, which he told me was like, oh my God, my bike broke down. And then I went, oh yeah, I have 150 skateboards, or you know what I mean? Like, I can use a skateboard. And we lend out the skateboards to kids, to youth. They're not really children. They're mostly teenagers and young men, and on an honor system right now. But because there's lockdown, they have to be home by 4:30 in the afternoon, and it's very strict there. And the other thing is, like, I noticed that on First Nations reserves as well, we've been very fortunate to be able to send out to Salurit, Nunavik. You know, we sent out skateboards down there. There's no roads there, but the city, or the mayor, or I don't know what they're called, allowed the kids to have skateboarding lessons inside the gymnasium. And, you know, unfortunately, there's a high rate of suicide among young adults there. And the program has been extremely successful. They're waiting also for us to put it on Air Inuit. I have 50 longboards for them. I can't get it out there because I need to have these airlines working. And once that lifts up, we hope that we'll resume. Of course, we're going to still need funds to pay for transportation because 100% of all the funds goes to the foundation. There's no employees. So, you know, there's a lot of philanthropy done. Good example, I want to say hi to Rudy and Mac and Poppy out in Scotland. They raised like $800 Canadian crossing the longest bridge in Edinburgh on their skateboard. Nobody's ever done that. These are 6, 7-year-olds go, how can we raise money? Can you imagine 6, 7, 8-year-olds, little girls going, I'm going to raise money to send skateboards to Gulu, because they did that last year, and the money, exactly what we needed for the excess weight, because it wasn't with Air Canada, it was with KLM. We had to pay for it. And the money served, apart from the money that I put in, it was not just 800, but their money went directly. So the kids got an extra 25 skateboards because of these 3 girls out in Scotland. And when you think about it, kids that young understanding their role as ambassadors, because they're all ambassadors, I have like 80 ambassadors in 20 countries. And they understand that their role to share their joy of skateboarding means that they are raising awareness to increase the value of skateboarding in countries for children who don't have access, so that we can get them skateboards. And so they're sharing all their stuff on Instagram especially. And their parents are extraordinary. You have to do a shout out to their parents, because the parents are thrilled to see their children thrive in leadership roles. Nobody's teaching them this. Nobody's sitting there and giving them a crash course on how to be a leader. This, you know, Poppy, as a 6-year-old, her mother told me she just wants to help. She wants to cross the bridge. I go, she came up with that by herself. I mean, like, and then the whole family got involved. You can see that in our blog post on our, you can find that. It's just extraordinary. And there's stories like that, like Max here in Quebec. He's collected 75 complete skateboards. Wow. Look, I have adults who give me one. This kid used his salesmanship to get 75 skateboards in 2 summers. And he merited, like he ended up coming with me to Cuba in July of last year. Where Radio Canada, you know, that's our sister, you know, Radio Canada.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Sorry, en français.
Hey, my Canada includes Quebec, so.
Yes, okay, just in case. But Radio Canada did a documentary on us, and we went there, we filmed for 4 days, and Max got to meet his hero. Who was his hero? My ambassador and my 3rd son, Yohani, that one person that boy that I gave a skateboard to. So the documentary tells you the story about how I gave that skateboard to him, how it grew. And now Max, at 11 years old, is my prodigy, is now taking over here in Quebec and doing the same thing. So there's kids out there who are phenomenal. And I personally, I did not tell them what to do. I didn't say this would be a great marketing, great brand thing to do. Nothing like that. Everything that we do comes from our heart, and that's why it's so easy. A lot of people ask me, like, how do you do this with no money? We barter. We have to barter. We have to exchange. We have to make an effort to meet people halfway. And this is what COVID is going to do for us for the future, by the way. We have to meet each other halfway. There's no more only the 1% dictating to the 99% that they have to do things a certain way. Even big companies, sports, entertainment, and everyone, they are going to have to rely on us, okay, to help push their agenda. It's no longer the other way around, where we're shoving everything down our throats and telling us this is the only way to do it. You know what? We got kids who are 6, 7, and 8 years old showing us how to raise money, how to raise awareness, how to donate their own proper skateboards to other kids like Izzy and Maddie, and like all these kids all over you know, the States, and I have kids everywhere. I'm like freaking out. I wish I had an assistant to help me manage all these children, because all the messages we get from Jaden and Alicia and, you know, Emmerich and all these kids doing these remarkable things, they're under 12 years old. And you know what? COVID-19 or not, these kids are not going to stop flourishing, sharing their joy, and being positive and finding solutions. Because if we listen to them more, I think we can be inspired by these children. And that's what I'm hoping to do by sharing their stories, because that's pretty much what we do, is we curate all these stories about these kids.
Betty, so much
nuggets, yeah.
in everything that you say. So first off, let's have a big shout out to Rudy and Mac.
Yeah, they're in UK.
Yeah, to Max for all of his work. And it looks like the good folks at Daily Apple here in Toronto must be doing something similar. I don't know if you're working with them, but
no,
it sounds like there might be an opportunity. Yeah, maybe it'd be an opportunity to collaborate. Yeah. It sounds like they're doing something similar, because I couldn't agree with you more. It is always inspiring to see young people who have recognized the value of giving back, whether it's because they recognize that they want to help other people, or maybe they even at a young age recognize that it makes them feel happier and healthier when they can put a smile on somebody else's face and on theirs. So I think that's a great place to end off our conversation. Betty, I knew this was going to be a great conversation. I knew that there'd be no problem filling up 45 minutes of content.
Sorry about that. I talk too much.
No, because at the end of the day, what I love about you and always have is that you're passionate on making the world a better place. And I couldn't agree with you more. You know, as we move forward from COVID-19, we only have one choice. And that choice is to come together and support one another. You know, the separation of wealth is a challenge, but if we all recognize that, as we're recognizing in the pandemic, that we are in this together, and that having a great gap between the rich and the poor doesn't work for anybody, because the pressure on young people, the pressure on less fortunate people creates a lot of other problems in society as well. And so it's better off if we all have a life in which we can feel proud, hopeful, inspired, and motivated to be a community that makes the world a happier and healthier place.
You always say it well, Pete, and believe me, you know, I'm a big fan of GenWell Project. I'm 100% there. It really is part of our values, and I'll always be there to support it. And to all my kids watching out in Skateboards for Hope Land, you know, we're thinking about you, and any kid that wants a skateboard that can't afford it, we'll try to get it to you. I mean, like, there's always a way, you know. It's my favorite thing to say. It always seems impossible until it's done, by Nelson Mandela. I've been living an example of that, and so are the kids. And I'm not going to say everyone has to be positive. I'm just say try to have some hope, and get focused on, you know, being happy.
Yeah, and Sunny had a great comment there, which is seeing young kids getting involved in raising funds at an early age is really powerful. So, Betty Esperanza, thank you so much for what you do. Thank you for making the world a better place. Thank you for giving 5,000 kids around the world the opportunity to have a skateboard and go have some fun and connect with their community on the skateboard. And you and I will be chatting soon, but, you know, take care of yourself. Be safe, and don't forget, stay connected, because we all need somebody else around us during these challenging times, my friend.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.